Earlier this year, I posted a video in which I talked about 4 mystery novels from Japan. It quickly went viral, garnering tens of views. However, I read way more than 4 mystery novels for research. So to justify past me's labor, I decided to rank the remaining books I didn't have time to discuss. For the sake of concision, we'll only look at Japanese novels, so don't expect to see any Gigi Pandian or Michel Bussy. To start, let's get the 4 I already discussed out of the way. Tokyo Zodiac and Decagon House get A's, then S for Suspect X, and Death Among the Undead comes in with another A. I'll cover the remaining books chronologically. So that means we're starting with Shimada's follow-up to the Tokyo Zodiac murders, published only a year later. To anyone curious about reading Murder in the Crooked House, I ask of you one question. How important is realism? If the answer is not in the slightest, well, then this book will test that stance of yours. The solution is far-fetched, and none of the characters are all that interesting, except maybe the culprit, but if you like wonky architecture and improbable solutions that are nonetheless quite clever, look no further. It's a coin flip whether you love it or hate it. I'm on the side of liking it, but I'm still putting it in mid-C tier for its flagrant disdain for logic. Ayatsuji was young when he wrote the first few house books, still in his mid-late 20s, though nowadays we're getting literal infants popping up as mystery writers, like Mr. City Tower. That makes me feel old though, so let's not dwell on that. Point is, this is another early work of Ayatsuji. Whereas Decagon House was his bold introduction, Millhouse feels like a much more traditional mystery. If you're the type of reader who takes notes, you'll likely be able to solve it. There's no bonkers twist that comes from out of left field. My only major critique about this one is that the titular mill of the Mill House was a smidge underutilized. By that, I mean this story could have been set in a normal mansion and not much would have changed. But even so, I've yet to read anything from Ayatsuji that I didn't at least like, and the fact that so many people will point to different house books as their favorite is a testament to their high quality, at least the ones we have translated. It's a brisk read, and so short that it's difficult not to recommend. B tier. With Labyrinth House, I first have to commend the translator, Ho-Ling Wang. He has a whole post on the process of translating Labyrinth House, and it's a great read after completing the book. And I'm really glad he did translate it because its follow-up, The Clockhouse Murders, does feature a significant spoiler about one of the mysteries in Labyrinth House. As for the book itself, it's another home run for Ayatsuji. We've got a frame story this time. Our POV character, Shimada, is sent a copy of a new manuscript. It recounts a story based on a real series of murders that occurred the prior year, written by a pseudonymous author. Part of the challenge comes with determining the author's identity, as well as the culprit. There's a kind of weird final twist relating to a bloodstain, but aside from that, I find little to fault here. A tier, and probably superior to Decagon House, objectively, but I'm biased because Decagon House got me into Japanese fair play mysteries, so I harbor a special fondness for it. The Moai Island puzzle is one of the earliest successful Shinankaku logic chain mysteries, and it is okay. But before going further, I should explain what I mean by logic chain. There are a lot of ways to classify mysteries. Fair play, social, hybrid, but when it comes to classifying the types of puzzles you'll face, we almost always see something along the intuitive versus Queenian deductive spectrum. An intuitive puzzle may involve you synthesizing clues to arrive at a logical conclusion. You're going by guttural instinct to put pieces together. For example, say you come upon a corpse in an open, muddy clearing with no footprints leading to or away from it. Let's also say that you discover a high concentration of helium in the air. From the evidence, you may deduce that the body was dumped via gas balloon. Conversely, Queenian logical chains, named after writing duo Ellery Queen, involve methodically and systematically eliminating possible scenarios until you're left with a lone solution. They're like equations, but with stabbing. If a victim is beaten to death and an autopsy determines based on the punches that the assailant was right-handed with 100% certainty, then we can rule out left-handed suspects. That's a simple example, but Queenian deductions can get pretty complex when you add more links to the logic chain. Moe Island spends so much time focusing on its chain that its characters end up feeling flatter than a unilayer lasagna. In contrast, the flow of reasoning is neat to follow. I've heard that other books in this series are better, so I would like to see them come to the States at some point. High C tier. The first fair play zombie mystery, or at least the first one I could find. Death of the Living Dead manages to be fair play, but also it provides plenty of insights into the funerary industry. This novel is longer than your average mystery, and we don't even get into the detecting portion until halfway through. But Yamaguchi uses that ample space to flesh out the Barleycorn family. They all have impressive depth, and the dynamic between our main characters Grin and Cheshire is a blast to watch. Unlike Death Among the Undead, here the zombies aren't mindless monsters, they're just really dour. I was disappointed at how the serial killer plot point was resolved, but I can't give this thing any lower than A tier. Ayatsuji's favorite book he's written, and based on online discourse, it's the best house book, sometimes paired with the 7th, Dark House Murders. Suspect X is the pinnacle of social, character-driven murder mystery, but Clockhouse? This is peak puzzle solving. Even if you manage to guess the culprit or murder method early on, it's still amazing to see how meticulously plotted everything is. I was stunned by the sheer effort that went into making this story work. On top of the twist, we get surprisingly well done characterization for our posthumous folks. The reason why this house was designed the way it was adds so much depth to people we never even see. As far as I'm concerned, Clockhouse could easily stand alongside any novel in the wider murder mystery canon. S tier. The Summer of the Ubume. This one sucks. We're just gonna put you over here. The big draw for this one is how it weaves tales of Japanese spirits into the mystery. A respectable idea, sure, but the author saps all joy out of it by giving us the most unlikable detective I've encountered with Akihiko Chuzenji. But even he pales in comparison to our POV character. Can someone please get this disgusting termite off my screen? I'm not gonna bother with my single frame spoiler thoughts. Skip to the next entry if, for whatever reason, you're interested in reading it after all my complaining. On top of assaulting a girl in his youth, Sakaguchi-kun is the biggest weenie of all time. But the thing is, I can deal with annoying characters if the mystery is good. Guys, the mystery is not good. Unfair even. I kid you not. One of the major twists is that our POV guy didn't notice the body because seeing it was so shocking. What the hell? It does kind of wrap around to being so stupid it's hilarious, but at the same time, I've no intention of picking this one up again. Mountain Lodges is another Queenian logic chain mystery, and I dig the UFO theming. The setting's also super cozy. Our POV, Sugashita, is kinda pathetic, but coming off the protagonist from Abume, I'll take him. Sugashita is the new assistant to this television personality, Shiro Hoshizono, a professional horoscope guy who's a wee bit self-centered. No single character is particularly deep, but I like them all. I think the logic chains here are also more satisfying to follow than in Moe Island, and with a dope twist at the end, I'll rank it in lower B tier. The Perfect Insider, or Everything Becomes F. I only watched the anime for this one, since the book's translation is less than stellar, but I'm still including it because 30 looks better than 29 in the thumbnail. For a positive note, I do like the twist. But before that, we have weak characters doing their pseudo-intellectual discussions that repetitively drag on and on. Even other mystery books at least succeed at being fun, but in making this a scientific mystery, I ended up feeling like I was in a science class. But as I was about to nod off, Mori captured my attention with an admittedly nifty howdunit. They could have cut the episode count from 11 to 4 or 5, and it would have been better. D tier. Rarely do I get mysteries 100% correct, but I did with this one, so I like it since I got to feel smart. A tier. Full transparency, I read a machine translation of Werewolf Castle that I found randomly online. I normally never read books this way, but I was so drawn to Raito Nikaido's colossal magnum opus that I didn't mind consuming it in a less than perfect format. The Terror of Werewolf Castle is actually 4 books released from 1996 to 1998, and was probably the biggest single continuous mystery story at the time of its release. It may still be if we're not factoring in visual novels. Book 1 introduces us to the concept. 2 castles built on opposite sides of a ravine on the Franco-German border, both facing one another. Set during the 70s, our main group is invited to the German side Silverwolf Castle, wherein they are killed over the course of several days. We end on a cliffhanger, and at the time of its release, readers were surprised and even a little PO'd to learn that they wouldn't be given the solution until a future volume. Nowadays though, audiences would eat this up. The introduction rocks. Great atmosphere, and I love how mythology and folklore are used to build up the castle's sinister nature. Book 2 follows a similar format, this time on the French side, Blue Wolf Castle. More murders occur, adding up to a frankly ludicrous body count. The 3rd volume introduces our detective lady protagonist as she ploddingly gets on the case. Yeah, this is the weakest book in the series. Ranko putzes about forever before leaving Japan. It also doesn't help that there are lots of callbacks to older books in the Ranko series that I simply didn't care about because I didn't read those books. Volume 4 is the solution, and it lasts hundreds of pages. To get the critiques out of the way first, the murder solutions overwhelmingly rely on a mystery trope that I don't like so much. And the culprit motive is so confoundingly boneheaded. But the main twist, even if you see it coming, is a certified classic. Was it worth slogging through 4 long books of varying quality? I'd say so. There's more than enough good here to earn a spot in B tier, and I do hope the Ranko series is translated someday in its entirety. YouTuber Books Barbells Claire already did a video in praise of Kitayama, so check her out if you'd like to hear about his untranslated works. But for English readers, Kitayama is best known for his work on the Danganronpa franchise. He wrote the 7 notoriously insane Kirigiri light novels released from 2013 to 2020, as well as some of the tricks for Danganronpa V3 and the soon-to-be-released Danganronpa 2x2. And before even Danganronpa, Kitayama wrote the Castle series. In a similar vein to Ayatsuji's house books, we're exploring cases set in castles. The 2 trademarks of Kitayama's fiction are, 1, that his solutions often revolve around physical tricks, which is sick because those are my favorite types of tricks, and 2, there's often a fantastical element incorporated into the overarching plot. And in the case of his 2nd book, Lapis Lazuli, we've got time travel. Apparently, some daggers are cursed, and that's causing some reincarnation hijinks. We see our characters experiencing strange happenings in medieval France, World War I, and 80s Japan. Luckily, we've got this Doctor Who-coded person named Snowy who's good at solving mysteries. I enjoy the murder methods here, especially the teleporting night corpses. However, this may be the shortest book I'm discussing in this video. For that reason, characters lack sufficient time to breathe, and the atmosphere is pretty threadbare. I tend to oscillate between placing this in low B or high C. I'll go with C with a note that books in this tier are still worth reading. The 4-volume Sakai, or Me and You series, is one of the lesser-known creations of Nishio Ocean, who's most well known in the West for his Monogatari light novels/anime. My only exposure to Nishio Ocean prior to Sakai was the anime Katanagatari, which I thought was solid. People seem to love Sakai 1, but I felt like 95% of the book was spent on the incest romance. The mystery is fine, I guess. The motive's cool. Book 4 is apparently the worst thing ever though, so I don't feel like I'm missing out by dropping these. D tier. The first Galileo book, Suspect X, was for the bros. Conversely, Salvation of a Saint focuses much more on women's issues. Yoshitaka here, he wants a kid, which is a problem since after a year of marriage, the pair haven't been able to conceive. Now it's divorcing time, and Ayane takes this news well. Yoshitaka is found poisoned in his home the next day. Ayane is the obvious person of interest, but she was in another city at the time during which her husband could have been poisoned. Perplexed, junior detective Kato Utsumi convinces Professor Yukawa to help her figure out how Ayane managed to pull off the murder. Other than Ayane, the star this time is Kusanagi. I dig what Higashino did with him in this installment, and the murder method is top-notch. A tier. Rounding out the Higashino books, we have the 3rd Galileo novel. It's still somber in tone, but despite a somewhat dark twist, It's all pretty chill. I like Yukawa showing the wonders of science to the kid. I like the setting, even if the conflict surrounding the setting feels separate from the overall mystery plot. It's Higashino, you know what you're getting. Lower B tier, though I may drop it to C depending on my mood. Your enjoyment of Murder of Alice wholly depends on the level of gore you can tolerate. Among all the blood and guts which are indelible staples of the murder mystery genre, Murder of Alice ranks the highest in terms of sheer gruesomeness. Lots of people find the depictions of slaughter excessive, specifically that scene in the White Rabbit's house. I get that, but also, grow up. As for the crimes, picking out the culprit is dumb easy, but unbeknownst to me, there were like 5 other acts of misdirection going on in the background. The final third of Murder of Alice is a relentless, non-stop horror show that I could not put down. B tier. Hybrid mysteries exploded in the late 2010s era, which was around the time Kei Hojo entered the scene. Combining fair play mystery and time travel could have made for a disastrously overcomplicated debut, but never does she lose control of the plot. I don't even mind the one-note culprit character because I find everyone else so charming. The ending too, I found it immensely satisfying, like, oh my god, A tier. And yet, I like Hojo's sequel even more. Our new protagonist is Yuki, another member of the Ryuzen family, and he has a tragic past. Instead of time travel, we're dealing with a monster, and it really feels like a powerful threat. In order to survive, our cast needs to understand the mechanics behind how this creature functions. I'm being sparse with my descriptions, but no, that's because I genuinely think mystery fans should go into Kei Hojo's work blind. She gives you exactly what you want in a mystery story. Another clear A tier, close to S. The inaugural entry in horror YouTuber Uketsu's Strange Houses series. I'll be upfront, I find Uketsu's plots weak, and Strange Houses is my least favorite of the lot. Uketsu usually shows off his best twist at the start before devolving into a contrived narrative that feels more in line with a horror novel than a mystery one. I can safely say that I don't care about the characters in these books. I know lots of people like these damn things, and I feel like I should too in theory because I love floor plans and illustrations, yet I've always found the plots weighed down by their over-reliance on final act exposition dumps. D tier. Again, I feel like an outlier for hating on this one, but there are several things in here that rub me the wrong way. I love VR world mysteries because you essentially have infinite possibilities on where to set your story. In fact, the game company that manufactured the VR system our characters are playing on owns an adventure fantasy IP, but instead of setting the mystery there, our protags are placed in this boring single-story building. I don't know, it just felt like a missed opportunity. The tricks here range from poorly hinted at to okay-ish, and the culprit's motive is interesting conceptually, but I was never entertained by them or any of our new characters. The master plan, motive, all far-fetched. I consider myself a Hojo superfan, but I could not get into this one despite its glowing praise from other reviewers. D tier. Some dinguses in the woods urban explore inside a bunker that belonged to a cult. Great idea. Then they get stuck after a landslide, water starts rising, and one of them thinks now is the best time to enact that murder plan they've had on the back burner. The arc is the first in a series of biblically themed mysteries. The author, Haruo Yuki, has an interesting relationship with religion, seeing as how he was raised in a cult. Yes, actually. So I was curious to see how things shook out. Ultimately, the arc didn't grab me. Until the ending, where the book hits you with one of the most harrowing twists ever to grace the mystery genre. I refuse to elaborate on that statement any further. It's a quick read, give it a go if it looks even remotely interesting. B tier. Danro Kamasaki's books hyper-focus on locked room mysteries. And our main detective, Mitsumura, is a locked room prodigy. Whenever she makes a deduction, Mitsumura ties her hair into a ponytail like Violet Baudelaire, then solves the case in 20 seconds. It's hype every time, you gotta see it. Our POV this time is Kuzushiro, who ain't too shabby himself at solving locked rooms. There's this through line in the series about whether Mitsumura killed her dad in a locked room, and if she did, how'd she pull it off? Her keen intellect paired with Kuzushiro's drive to solve the puzzle makes for a fascinating dynamic. Asahina is also there for some reason. No one knows why. Regarding the locked rooms themselves, I like the Dominoes one and the final locked room best. Unfortunately, Six Tricks does include some of the weakest puzzles in the series, so I can't rank it higher than C tier. But hey, you're getting 21 plus locked rooms across the trilogy. They're not all going to be winners. A definite step up from Six Tricks. There was only one killing I'd call BS, and it's fiercely overshadowed by the other tricks. The Cross Tower rocks. Borderline B, C tier. I'm feeling nice today, let's go low B. I'll lump the final Uketsu pair together, as my thoughts are about the same. Both are much better than Strange Houses. My ranking for these books largely depends on how much I personally like the overarching narrative, so Pictures gets mid-C, Buildings high D. Even though I'm not enamored with these books, they're crazy enough to warrant continued interest. I'll definitely give Strange Maps a shot when it gets a translation. Murder in the Age of Locked Room, I'm not reading this title. 8 unique locked rooms in one book is excessive, but I like a good chunk of these. It's difficult to conjure up original tricks in the 2020s, especially if you're not writing a hybrid mystery. But 8 Tricks includes no fewer than 2 of the most ingenious murder methods I've seen in the modern era. The motorcycle helmet blood seal is freaking horrifying, and the gun retrieval method is nothing short of brilliant. The downside is that there's so much going on that characterization is nil. Victims exist to rush up to the main cast, say hi, introduce themselves, then sprint off to get killed somewhere. The culprit's motive is silly too, but it's all pretty tongue-in-cheek. These books make no attempt at being character studies. Rather, they're vehicles for the author to explore complicated locked room tricks. I was also under the impression that 8 Tricks was the conclusion of the plot thread about the locked room of Mitsumura's dad, but no, that's not resolved in the slightest. So I can only assume Kamasaki will release a 9 Tricks novel in the near future. God help us. High B tier, but it'd be A tier for readers who don't mind simple characters. To wrap up, let's rearrange within layers to rank titles strongest to weakest, left to right. With that, we have our final ranking. If you feel so inclined, let me know in the comments why my opinion is wrong. I would also appreciate any advice on the orange section of getting over it. I've beaten the game multiple times, but my friend keeps slipping off the cliffside.
Oh, no!